gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Step 1, wake up early, gon' rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing. Cause we want retribution.
So I want to highlight part of this process here because this is a bad idea. And so just a forewarning for you if you're working on, if you just decide to do something like this, make sure you have enough fabric and probably get the 4-way stretch fabric that's used exactly for this. But you want to do one piece and not have to overlap anything because it just creates way more work to have to smooth that out later on, as you'll see. So try to get a one piece that will fit the whole speaker box and not have to overlap anything like that. The first time you mix your resin, you may want to just do a small amount so that you get used to it and see how fast it dries when you're putting it on. It's always easy to make more, so I would just start with less, and then when you paintbrush it on, you can either make it thicker for it to dry faster, or you can kind of thin it out a little bit. You can kind of play around with it. after you saturated this pretty good and you're finished, you may want to put it into the sunlight. It helps activate it. It helps it dry faster. It's up to you. See how you have that lump that's there? That's going to stay there when it hardens. So that's what I mean by if you have one piece, do it in one piece and don't cut or overlap. The more wrinkles and imperfections you have when putting that down, it's going to stay there. So you want it to make it as smooth as possible, which is going to help big time when it comes to the process of sanding and adding Bondo and stuff like that to have it smoothed out. Oh, here we go, another day. You can see the red fabric I use. You look at the middle part, I have that big gap there. That's terrible. So basically, I went and got some other fabric. I think it's a blanket I use. It's one piece. So I'm going to end up pulling this off, as you'll see, and redoing it because it just, you know, I mean, you could do that and just put fiberglass material over that, but I'm just going to take it off and redo it. Yeah, I could have cut that out the video, but I want to show things probably not a good idea to do as well, because then you guys can learn from it. And that's what I'm doing. I'm, learning from it as I go too. Another benefit to doing just a little bit at a time when you're working with the resin is it starts to get gummy and harder to spread on as it starts drying. So you don't want to put too much in, work with too much at a time. Now I'm just going to cut away the excess fabric because all the stock hardware and locking mechanism and the key lock, I also want all that stuff to still work as it did before. I'm just adding the speakers. This next step is up to you whether you want to do this or not. I'm putting small holes in the lid and through the resin part there, or the fabric that I put resin over. I want the resin to kind of adhere to the holes and kind of go through, just to give it a little bit more bite, because I'm basically putting this on top of the stock lid, So I want to be able to bite into it more or less, so to ensure that, you know, once the speakers are playing and the bass and all that stuff, I don't want this thing to ever come off or break apart. So I'm just doing that as an extra kind of step to try to ensure that when I put the resin goes through the holes as well and helps secure everything together. Not sure if it's needed. It's just something I'm just taking an extra step on. So now I'm just going to cut some strips for the fiberglass so that it just makes it easier to lay it in certain sections. I may not even have had to do this step if I didn't mess up laying that fabric on and botched it up so bad. You know, if you had it laid smoothly, and you could probably add more structure to the inside as opposed to landing on top. Because I did such a bad job, I had to kind of go over top and fix some of it. So you have to decide whether that's a step you want to take or not. And another day we go. Take your time cutting the holes out for the rings and the speakers, because you don't want to mess the edges up too bad, because you gotta make sure when you put your speakers in, you don't want a lot of air to be able to pass through, or even water to be able to pass through. You want to have a pretty good tight seal, so you know, there's no need to rush. Just take your time. So when you mix up your Bondo, when you add the hardener, make sure you pay attention to how much you put in, because if you put too much in there, it's going to dry very fast. It's going to be not easy to work with. So just, put a little bit at a time, get used to it, and then, make your adjustments as you move forward. Probably a better way to do this. The one thing that I would say is the smoother you can put this on, the better. That roughness, how I have it right now, where you see all those bumps and crevices, all that has to be sanded down. So save yourself time and effort. The smoother you can put this down, the better. Make sure you take time to clean up your area, just because you don't want to slip on the dust, and you also don't want to track it everywhere. Or if it's breezy, it might end up in your speaker box. But I'll save you from watching me do all this cleaning up. Let's skip to something else. I'm just starting with real abrasive sandpaper, just trying to knock off the big chunks and pieces. That way we can get to more of the finer, to get more of a smooth shape. But right now I'm just trying to knock off, and this is what I was talking about before. Like, the smoother you can get this, the better, because you don't have to do so much sanding and trying to smooth things out. This part, the sanding took a long time. I'm gonna skip through a lot of it, but it really took a while to get the finish smoothed down the way I needed it to be. So I'm just using filler primer to try to fill some of the pinholes and some of the material that dropped out, try to smooth it over. I pretty much sprayed it and then sanded, then sprayed it, then sanded to try to smooth things out. It's not perfect, but hey, it's the first time. There's a couple big spots that weren't shaped that well. I didn't like the way it looked, so I went over it with some Bondo, so back to sanding again. I didn't have my video camera on, I just had pictures. So right here is I was just doing some spray painting and sanding and spray painting and sanding. When you spray paint and when you sand it, it smooths it out, but you also can see like dips where you need to come back and put a little bit more material so that you can smooth it out. And then I pretty much spray painted some coats of paint to get it ready for the speakers. So here is where I'm almost finished. I have certain parts, as you can see there in red, that I need to sand down to get that final smooth finish, and then I'm gonna put a couple layers of paint, then I'll be ready for the next stage. On the next part, I'm going to show part 3, tearing down the bike and running the wiring and getting ready for the speakers. I put an amplifier in here as well to run all the speakers. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching.